The instant impact is that it might change the way certain fans feel about him, particularly women, particularly fans of Lily Allen. I can imagine that if you were a big fan of his, you'd feel let down, you might feel disappointed.
Hi everyone, Neil Patterson from the Sky News Daily Podcast here. Do hope this finds you well. Now, regulars will realise every Friday we try and take a deep dive into an event or a person who's been making headlines over the past few days. Before we get to them though, do feel free to check out some of the other podcasts we've been releasing this week. They've been looking at a number of topics, including whether the latest climate conference in Brazil is something of a cop-out. See what I did there. And also Elon Musk and the way in which he is apparently boosting the right and the far right in the UK through his social media platform X. You can follow the feed just by tapping the card that has appeared in the top right-hand corner of the screen. On this edition, though, we are taking a look at someone who's had, a pretty rough few weeks in the spotlight, and that's David Harbour. He is, of course, a major Hollywood star known most for his roles in Stranger Things, Hellboy and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But as of late, it's all gone a bit Pete Tong. First came the album, his now ex-wife Lily Allen's fifth record, West End Girl, which chronicles the breakdown in their marriage. Well, it's entered the UK top 5 and caused a bit of a stir on social media. Certainly seems pretty clear when you listen that hell hath no fury like a singer scorned. Then there's the allegations relating to bullying on the Stranger Things set. Harbour's young co-star, 21-year-old Millie Bobby Brown, reportedly filed pages and pages of a complaint prior to filming the last season. Harbour, Brown and Netflix, who of course air the series, have not yet responded to the allegations in the Mail's reporting. And at the series premiere, it was certainly all smiles from the two co-stars. So what impact will this have on Harbour's career and the perception of him amongst those millions of previously adoring fans? Well, to find out, I sat down with Sky's arts and entertainment editor, Claire Gregory. David Harbour, he is a fascinating character for a number of reasons which we'll be getting into, but where did it all start for him?
It all kind of came relatively late for him. Born in 1975 and in his early 20s, late teens, started doing a bit of acting, and it was really kind of a Broadway role that was his first kind of real break, if you like, his first proper acting gig. That Broadway role was in a remake of The Rainmaker, and it kind of got him some attention. And from that, he became a bit of a jobbing actor. He was known, but he wasn't he wasn't a household name by any stretch of the imagination.
But one of those faces that you go, do you know what? I have seen him somewhere.
Exactly that. And, he was very open, even in kind of early interviews, about some of his sort of struggles in life, which also slightly sets him apart. He went on a podcast, it was Mark Maron's WTF in 2018, and he was really open about his sort of struggles in early life. He talked about being diagnosed with bipolar. He talked about addiction issues. He talked about his parents actually, when he kind of had this episode putting him into, a medical facility and being medicated for years after that. So, he's been open about that sort of colourful life that he's had.
Let's focus though on the acting and those years as a jobbing actor. I mean, the show that I first came across him on was the Aaron Sorkin The Newsroom, where he played a presenter and a reporter, bit gruff, bit out there. I wonder why that appealed to me. But he did lots of stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because you and I obviously love The Newsroom because we're journalists and you love watching stuff set in newsrooms and things like that. And a lot of people would know him for that. It was, as you say, an Aaron Sorkin series. It was quite well known, especially in the US. And then equally, you've got some incredible films that he was in. If I say James Bond's Quantum of Solace, Brokeback Mountain, The Green Hornet, these are massive, massive films. But he he was kind of playing a role where you go, oh, that CIA agent. Oh, yeah, I know who you mean. I know, he was in Quantum of Solace. But you wouldn't, he wouldn't be kind of gracing the front pages of the gossip magazines and things like that.
But there is a role for actors like that in the Hollywood fundament. But of course, the one thing that they all want is the breakthrough. And he got it with Stranger Things. Yeah,
I mean, it completely transformed his career, really. We're very used to Netflix sort of churning out hits now, but when Stranger Things first arrived, it was one of Netflix's major, behemoth of a hit. It kind of turned up and I think it was their third most watched original show that they'd had at that time. And it was it was this sci-fi drama. It was different to other things.
It was so heavy on the nostalgia.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I got, because everything is viewed through this 80s prism, from the soundtrack to the graphics that they used to the whole overall aesthetic. But it was about more than just dipping a toe into the 80s.
Exactly, you're right. It's that strange combination of sort of nostalgia and then sci-fi. So it's kind of got this kind of futuristic / past kind of combination going on. And whatever it was, it's that magic sauce. If only shows knew how to bottle that. But it completely worked. It was a huge hit. It continues to be a huge hit for Netflix. Cost them a lot of money to make, of course. But what it did is it propelled the stars. And David Harbour, particularly, along with his sort of on-screen adopted daughter, played by Millie Bobby Brown. I mean, those two, I would argue, are the real kind of breakouts. Winona
100%.
Ryder, of course, is in Stranger Things, and she already had a huge career. We all know and love Winona. Whereas David and Millie went almost overnight from being, not unknown, but to becoming household names.
And for him, why do you think that was? I suppose a lot of it is to do with the character of Hopper himself and the kind of the reticent father figure that he starts to become.
I think the role that we love David Harbour for is this sort of lovable rogue kind of feeling to him. And like you say, the reluctant, but actually, there's, in the show, there's lots and lots of love there. And he is so likable in these characters.
100%.
He's so charismatic on screen. It's almost a surprise that did take him, all that time to kind of find his big break, because when he's in those roles, he's brilliant. He's a really good actor.
And recognised in the awards as well, I imagine.
He was being nominated for Emmys, for Golden Globes, and actually he won the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild ensemble. So it's for him and all the rest of the cast of Stranger Things. But they won that, and that is, again, I can't emphasize enough, it took Netflix a while to kind of break into the awards. For a little bit of time, the awards were quite sniffy about, streamer hits and things like that. The cast of Stranger Things winning kind of a SAG Ensemble Award, that was exciting and different, and it really showed, I think, the love for that show.
It was around about this time. His star is absolutely riding high, that he met Lily Allen. What do we know about the circumstances? Around about 2019 or so, I think it was.
The fact is, we actually don't know masses about their early relationship. They were spotted at a play together, and then not long after that, they were sort of kissing on the streets, a sort of pap shot. And then just a year after that, they were married in September 2020. So it was only sort of a year that their relationship was truly public before we got the wedding post. And that was absolutely great, because it was really fun. It was in Vegas. It was during COVID. So that I think it was just them and the kids in the pics. And they got married by an Elvis impersonator. The photos are great.
Classic.
Lily is wearing this gorgeous kind of mini dress, and they're eating burgers, and they've got the Elvis impersonator in the picture. And, in those horrible COVID times, it was like, oh, yay, a nice kind of story here, a new celebrity couple for us all to kind of obsess over. And they seemed like an interesting fit, because we've, Lily has grown up with us. We've known, she's been in the public eye.
That's a fair point. Yeah, she has,
she's been in the public eye in the UK for, since she was a teenager, certainly. And I think there's a lot of affection for her as a British star, particularly from the British public. And so it was like, oh, she's met this, she's now married to this kind of big US star, this kind of movie guy. And it was an interesting thing. I think, fans, I think there was a lot of goodwill for the relationship.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it was nice to see something positive emerging from it. But also, as so often happens when you're looking at a marriage through the spectrum of Hollywood, you do start to see a few cracks.
Again, it's really important to remember that Lily Allen has kind of lived her life very publicly. And so it wasn't that, a big announcement came out. It was fans started spotting things. Oh, she's not wearing her wedding ring, while recording her podcast. And, oh, she's rumoured to be on Raya, the celebrity dating app, And these kind of things started happening before any kind of formal announcement that the relationship had ended.
Wasn't there an instant? I mean, she was drafted in for a high-profile role in the West End. And there was a note that he wrote to her, along with a bunch of flowers, suggesting that if she did well, it would upset him. And I kind of read that at the time, and I couldn't quite work out whether this was heavy with the irony, or he was being entirely serious.
Well, this is the thing. Now you can look back, and that's exactly what fans have been doing, of course, in the last few weeks. You can look back and like reassess every kind of comment, even their wedding post on Instagram. He mentioned something about being like the credit card holder. And, you know, when you look back now, you can sort of put a different skew on that. And I think there is an unusual kind of vibe, if you like, to the humour in the relationship. Like you say, it is odd that he seemed kind of slightly double-edged about her success, but, you know, maybe it was just a big joke at the time. It's easy to kind of look at these things now and sort of try and read extra additional meaning into them.
The relationship ended before the album was released, but West End Girl, she describes it as a collection of both fact and fiction. But what did it suggest about their marriage?
I mean, it's almost like a story from beginning to end, West End Girl. It's well worth a listen because it's musically and kind of just as a concept album, it's just really interesting and good fun. But it suggests it starts off with a track, West End Girl, where she talks about meeting a man, falling in love, going over to the US, buying a house, and then winning a lead in a play in London, and then she tells him. And he basically says, "Oh, you should have had to audition for that." It's seemingly in the album, that's the thing that kicks things off in her mind as like things aren't quite right. And as the album goes on, there's kind of stories of, being asked about an open marriage. There's stories about how they had an arrangement. She had parameters for this relationship. It was supposed to be with, whoever this man was supposed to not be sleeping with anyone that they already knew. It had to be strangers and things like that. And then you kind of also get an imagined kind of text message conversation between Lily Allen and someone that she thinks has been sleeping with her man in this album. So there's very, very kind of intimate details of a relationship. But as you quite rightly point out, she's already said it's not a full kind of biography, and some reading between the lines should probably be done.
Whilst we fully acknowledge the blurring of the lines between fact and fiction in this, I mean, has David Harbour responded to any of it?
It's not sort of directly. He's recently done an interview with Esquire Spain, and they asked if there was anything that he would change about his life now that he's 50 years old. So, that's sort of a clever question. And he said, I'll read it verbatim. He said, "It's such a hard question, the question of regret or something," he replied. "I would change either everything or nothing." Slightly vague. Says, "You either accept your path completely and realise that even the pain and the slip-ups and the mistakes are all part of the journey, and that there's truth and growth, wisdom and deeper empathy and connection in all of that. It's kind of like a house of cards. The minute you try to change one thing, you kind of have to change it all." So it's a clever answer to a clever question, really. That sort of tells us nothing without telling us.
Still, whoever Lily Allen is singing about, and as she says, it's a blend of fact and fiction. Many people will take it to be David Harbour.
Absolutely.
And the individual on this album is not portrayed in a particularly nice light. He's portrayed as a cheat, a sex addict, someone who diminishes his partner in so many ways. I mean, does that necessarily have an effect on his career, do you think?
Well, I think the instant impact is that it might change the way certain fans feel about him, particularly women, particularly fans of Lily Allen. I can imagine that if you were a big fan of his, you'd feel let down. You might feel disappointed. As fans of celebrities, we sometimes kind of overinvest in their relationships, and people can take it quite personally.
Particularly with a character like Hopper.
Yeah, exactly. Because people feel like, as you say, they relate to him. They know him. And it's like, well, don't let yourself down because you're letting us down as well. So I think in that sense, yes. I mean, it's a very sort of interesting timing. Netflix have got the final season of Stranger Things to promote. David Harbour, I would imagine, was planned to be a huge part of that promotion strategy. It's an interesting time for them, no doubt.
Well, even when it comes to Stranger Things, allegations have been made recently about David Harbour's conduct as regards that production.
The Mail on Sunday said that he was facing an internal inquiry after Millie Bobby Brown put in a complaint about his behaviour towards her. Now, to be clear, nothing, no claims of sexual impropriety, but this was a kind of bullying and claims of harassment from her. against him. We don't know the full details of that inquiry. We don't know the outcome of that inquiry. And actually, at the Stranger Things premiere, they were pictured very happily greeting one another.
Just before I was coming into the studio, I was looking at pictures from the premiere, and if there's an issue between the two of them, they are doing everything they can to make it clear that it has at least been sorted.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, they are actors, they are pros, they know how to act in front of cameras, they know the world is watching, you know, people are definitely going to be absolutely fascinated to sort of see how they interact. And they have worked together for years in this kind of father-daughter relationship. There has always seemingly, there are, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of pictures of them together from over the years, looking kind of, you know, pally, friendly. And so I think, you know, their relationship is probably quite complex and we can't begin to know the ins and outs. But seemingly, certainly for the premiere of the series of Stranger Things, they were putting on a united front.
What do you think this means for the last series of Stranger Things, but more generally for David Harbour going forward?
I mean, the cynic in me sort of says, I mean, Stranger Things has never been more talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that old adage, all publicity is good publicity. So maybe it's not a bad thing that suddenly, you know, will it help kind of remind people there's a new series coming and boost those viewer numbers? A skeptic might say so, yeah. However, I suspect there have been some difficult conversations in Netflix HQ as they've been planning the press tours around this. I'd love to have been a fly on some of those walls. I think for the series itself, while David Harbour is, you know, without doubt a big part of Stranger Things, he's not the only part.
No,
It can totally weather any storm around one person because it's such a kind of ensemble thing, and it's about so much more. Even, you know, the Duffer Brothers who make the show, they're kind of big celebrities in their own right attached to it. And it's the final series, and everyone's, you know, fans are so excited to kind of see how it all ends and things like that. Yeah. You included.
Yes,
Neil.
I am. I cannot wait to get back into the Upside Down, I have to say.
So I think for Stranger Things there won't be a huge impact. For David Harbour, I think it's a TBC. You know, that interview with Spanish Esquire, that will not be the last we will hear from him. I'm sure he'll be asked about West End Girl and kind of his marriage in the months to come. And, you know, with all these things, it tends to be how people deal with these situations, crisis comms. You know, what else will Lily have to say? You know, again, to stress, she has said it's not, you know, a biography, and, you know, perhaps it's not fair to, you know, judge him too harshly. But at the same time, yeah, I think there will be a big impact in terms of those fans, particularly the women.
My thanks to Claire and, of course, to you for watching. If you want to see more from the Sky News Daily podcast team, just click on the playlist over on the right. And if you want to see more videos from Sky News, just click on the channel button right in the middle.